after I graduated from university, I'd studied French and Spanish. I was applied to teach English for the British Council and was placed in a Spanish enclave in North Morocco, which is called Ceuta, which I was kind of annoyed about because I knew nothing about it. It seemed like quite a weird place to live. Any Spanish person you speak to says, "Oh, that's not Spain. It's not a very nice place."
It used to be part of Portugal.
Ceuta.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you indicate to them that you were interested in immigration at all? Or?
No. So the other thing about Ceuta is that you won't really find anything online, or especially not in any English kind of news. I mean, it's in the Spanish news quite a lot, but no one's heard of the sort of migrant crisis in Ceuta.
The first time I ever heard of it was from you.
Yeah. So I arrived there and
because it's on the African continent, the northern part of Morocco.
Yeah.
The nearest part to Spain.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is owned by Spain.
Yeah.
Right under Gibraltar. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like a 45-minute ferry to Spain.
Is that
That's
close?
the northernest point of Africa. Yeah.
You can see it. You can literally see it from.
It's weird because you can see Gibraltar, Spain, and Morocco whilst you're standing there. So you've got like 3 countries in one.
Wow.
So I arrived there and discovered a very acute migrant crisis. So you'd have mainly West African migrants that would travel to this border. They've got a huge fence. As soon as you've climbed over the fence, you get European citizenship as long as you don't have your passport with you, because the Spanish government can't prove where they've come from.
So you just have to get over the fence. Once you hit the ground, you are instantaneously an EU citizen.
Yeah, so you'll have a migrant from Senegal who will climb over the fence and say he's from Cameroon. So the Spanish government ring up Cameroon saying, "We've got one of your citizens, we're going to send them back." Cameroon say, "That's not our citizen, he's got nothing to do with us." Under international law, it's now Spain's responsibility. Because, they can't just force them back into Morocco. Morocco say it's not our problem.
We don't want them.
So then they have like 6 months of waiting, and then they'll be allowed onto the mainland, but they're kind of kept in Ceuta. It's really hard to climb over the fence, so what they normally do is organise themselves so that 200 of them will storm the fence at the same time.
How high is the fence?
Like really high, like I'm gonna say 40 meters.
40 meters.
Whoa!
No.
What? 40 meters. That's like a castle. That's like a 10-story building.
So wait. So like, the Olympic height of the diving board is 10 meters, right?
Okay, it's about 20 meters.
Oh, that's still massive.
That's still pretty big.
No, it's maybe 15. And either way,
Is it higher than the high dive? Like when you go to the pool and they've got the highest.
No,
high dive?
the high dive is 30 meters, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, I think it's about 30.
Is that 30 meters?
Yeah, that's 30. Yeah.
I thought it was 10.
No.
This wall is like 2 meters.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, listeners, don't listen to him. He's American. He knows nothing about.
Oh, we know yards, man. Yards and meters are like
metric
it's the
system.
same thing, man.
So anyway.
So it's like 20, 30 meters.
But
It's
about
fucking
100
tall.
of them will get open. So you've got the Moroccan police that are like beating them down to stop them climbing over the fence. They're paid by the EU to be very aggressive in these situations.
Yeah. The Moroccan police.
Yeah, and then you've got the Spanish police.
On the other side.
But the problem is that once they've landed, there's nothing the Spanish police can do. But they often get lots of injuries. And then on the other side, you've got a lot of migrants coming over by sea. And they wait till the sea is really stormy so that they can't be seen by the Moroccan sort of boat
Coast
patrol. And then you've got like 50% of them will die from drowning on their way over. So I went to funerals of people that couldn't be identified, so you couldn't tell their family where they'd come from, that they'd died. So those experiences really affected me. I was doing a lot of translation work because I spoke French to the migrants, and then the NGOs were Spanish speaking. So it was quite an amazing experience. There was a real sense of victory for them when they just arrived. For them in Europe, like this is what they'd wanted, and yeah, it was very touching. There was one particular moment where I was running a weekly music group. So a lot of them were like extremely good at drumming, singing. We met on a Tuesday evening and just had a jam. And they kind of made up this song together, and the chorus was "A mother, one day I'll return." And I knew that, like, for a lot of them, because once you're in Europe, if you leave, then you won't get back in.
Yeah.
So they probably wouldn't see their mothers for like 20 years.
But they were becoming citizens though when they arrived.
No, it's a bit more complex than that.
You mean the people in Ceuta?
They wouldn't become citizens, but they would be allowed onto the mainland, and then they'd have to apply for citizenship.
Okay.
They don't become citizens, but you just can't like do anything else. They just have to go through a process.
As long as you stay in the Schengen area.
Yeah.
Like, so they could have gone to Italy or to
I think they have
France
to stay
or...
in Spain for 2 years, and then they can move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the understanding from the NGOs in terms of people's experience once they got over the fence, and did the NGOs understand what people's kind of life projection was for the next year or two? Like, did they know where people went, what they did, how they survived?
They'd normally be linked up with other organisations on the Spanish mainland, where they would go and kind of be helped to learn the language, given accommodation.
Yeah.
But a lot of them found it quite hard to find work when they were in Spain.
Oh yeah, even Spanish can't work in Spain.
Yeah.
I had friends who had masters, and they were like they could barely get waiting jobs in the last. Like,
Welcome to Mediterranean Europe.
What happens here in the UK so if I'm a refugee or an asylum seeker, what's my experience like in the UK in terms of?
Well, because what you originally asked me what was my experience with refugees, so I was saying, I had this experience for a year in Ceuta, and then went to Dunkirk refugee camp, where you have
in France,
one of like the richest countries in the world. You have families living in absolutely terrible slum conditions. That was very shocking. And then a lot of them, the way they would get to the UK would be like hiding under a lorry, like these crazy journeys.
Yeah, like 12, 24-hour journeys under lorries.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting, the experience.
Lorries being big trucks.
Yeah.
Diesel trucks. Like what
do you mean under them?
We call them Mack trucks. We don't call them lorries.
What do you mean under? How would they do that?
Like literally, like they would hide by the wheel, like clinging on.
What, like just holding?
There's one guy that I spoke to, Migrateful. He was saying that you basically lay your back on the axle.
Oh wow!
And then there would be like a bar there for you to lay your legs over. So essentially, you've got some kind of something here on your back and something on your legs. So you're basically, your butt and your midsection is dangling above the highway.
That's insane! Oh my god!
And the guy that I spoke to, he was underneath the lorry for, I think he said something like 16 hours.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because these lorry drivers, they don't stop driving either.
Yeah.
They're just going.
Oh my god, it's scary. So yeah, I think then after this huge journey arriving in the UK, you meet the very hostile environment. So you probably don't speak the language well, you don't know anybody, you're not given the right to work, so it makes it extremely hard to integrate and kind of get out of isolation. We had some really amazing news this week in Migrateful, because our Nigerian chef Betty, she arrived to the UK when she was 16, and she's been waiting 19 years to get her status. So all that time, unable to work, unable to participate in society, just feeling more and more frustrated. But on Monday night, she got a call from her lawyer to say that she'd been given her status.
Oh man!
After 19 years, so
what a wait!
Amazing. Yeah.
How did she feel? What did she say?
So as we went round in this workshop where 7 people were already crying, we got to Betty and she said, "I've got some news. I've got my status." So then there was like more people that started crying because it was unbelievable news.
Wow.
It's amazing.